Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tornadoes and Rainco.
His crystal ball is shined and ready to go.
Alright, well, we have to backtrack a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of boxing, a little bit of MMA from a couple weeks ago. But Tom has the inside story, so we got to start with his ringside commentary, even though he was up in the nosebleed seats, right, Tom?
Oh, what a night. Yeah, we should have probably made other arrangements. By the time we got there, it was nosebleed or walk. And so there we have it. But, yeah, the undercard was fairly entertaining. Tommy Fury and Jake Paul did the next fight to see. Yeah, Tommy Fury was fighting I guess Logan Paul's sparring partner, who was a former MMA guy,
Right.
and his boxing record was 0-1. And the sad thing, Tommy Fury couldn't finish this guy off. And he had Tommy Fury's a work in progress. I mean, he's only had 6 pro fights, so we got to give him some slack on that. But he just had a herky-jerky, like he was moving his left hand up
But I
and
mean,
down.
you see what kind of business Jake Paul is doing. You know, he's not only in this case trying to pick somebody who's weaker at the sport than but still has a name. You know, because Tommy Fury's big with the popularity because of the Big Brother. He was on the Big Brother show over in the UK. So
yeah,
he's got a huge following.
and then with some of the other fights, it's too bad the opening fight wasn't on. Charles Conwell, who was involved in the Patrick Day tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And Conwell's a classy guy because he did write an open letter to Patrick Day, even though Patrick Day is no longer with us, and said he was dedicating because he was ready to quit boxing. I mean, who the heck wants to see someone die?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a horrible experience. But to his credit, he said he's going to keep his career going, and he's dedicating all his efforts to the memory of Patrick Day. So, yeah, so we got a third round stoppage. Another one of those tough guy he was fighting, but not tough enough to last. And then we had the Beast. Ivan Bradchuk, I believe his name is. He was in the Fight of the Year in 2020. I'm sure you guys remember that one.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I do.
With Zepeda. And I think that took a lot out of Ivan. I had him winning 2 rounds, but he was really missing. He was a day late and a dollar short, and maybe it was just Montana Love. Just sometimes we focus on the winner, the loser, but sometimes it's, hey, he was in there swinging, but Montana Love had superb lateral movement and accurate punching. And so I guess after the fight, Ivan said that I don't know, there was some explanation, so we'll see where he's going. And then in the heavyweight fight, this Dubois fellow from England. Well, this was supposed to be a first round knockout, and it was. The opponent was cherry picked.
Yeah,
Dubois was stopped.
It was so quick that I lost my feed, and by the time it was so quick that when I was watching it, I lost the feed, and by the time I got back on to the live show, it was over.
Yeah. I'll give his opponent credit. He went down swinging. I mean, he got up and tried to make a fight out of it. But and then in the semi, Mr. Serrano is just way ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It was one of those. I kind of know where this one's going for 10 rounds. And the main event, as I said before, something happened to Tyron Woodley's soul after that Usman fight.
Yeah.
He's lost his aggression. Because, to use a football analogy for you guys, sometimes long pass, great. I mean, if you've got a quarterback with a rocket arm, why not open it up after you've established your running game, after you've set it up with your screen passes, after you've given the defense reason to tighten up.
Yeah.
And I don't think Woodley threw too many jabs in the whole fight. I don't know if you guys seen it. Correct me if you think I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like Woodley was waiting on that one punch.
He's a fish out of water.
In the 4th round,
I mean,
The what? Sorry?
He was a fish out of water because Jake Paul is a taller fighter.
Right.
He's got the more range. All he had to do was move and jab. That's all he really had to do to win the fight.
Yeah, and
when he added the right hand and a couple hooks here and there, he looked halfway decent.
Yeah.
Because there was no way he was getting in. Except that one time he had him on the ropes. It was one time. The whole fight.
Right, and the problem after that is when okay, well, look at the greatest fighters. When they get opponents in trouble, what happens? They hit the accelerator. They don't always stop them, but for the most part, that's the mark of a champion fighter.
Yeah.
You know, God forbid, when they get you in trouble. And I'm wondering, why is Woodley not cutting the ring off? I mean, it's not like he didn't know what to do. He just couldn't pull the trigger. And Jake Paul, now to his credit in that, he did respond correctly. I mean, he was rocked. In fact, I think it should have been a knockdown because the rules are, as I see them, and I think it's the same here in Ohio that it is anywhere else, if the ropes hold you up, otherwise you would have went down, that is a knockdown.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if they necessarily held him up. I don't think he was that rattled. He was definitely hurt, but I mean, I don't think he was that rattled that he was going to fall down if the ropes weren't there.
Yeah, but I think it was more of a momentum thing. It was a judgment call, but again, it was academic. I don't think it mattered. Yeah. But Jake did. He did recover from it, and he retired. And I think that now he's unretired. So.
See, Woodley's not experienced enough to know that if you're dealing with a guy with that much reach on you, and that's the first time you've gone up to that kind of weight too, I don't think he's fought at that weight in almost his whole career. So, I mean, he had to bulk up, and he had to fight a taller, lankier guy. And, you know, the only thing you can do in that situation, if the guy's halfway decent at moving around and keeping you off him, is to cut him off with body shots, you know, like left and right hooks as he's trying to move side to side. You go for the body. And then when he comes down to protect the body, you take his head out. But, I mean, there's just not enough experience in a boxing ring for Woodley to catch up to what Jake Paul has, because I mean it was just enough. And then the fact that he had BJ Flores in his corner, I think, made a world of difference. But we won't see him again because he retired after the fight.
And, you know,
did you hear that?
And just as an aside, some of the fights in the stands were more entertaining because we had that Mexican Puerto Rican rivalry, and you know, you guys know what it's like. You've been to it. I mean, it used to be called the Q, and now it's Rocket Mortgage Arena. The place was sold out.
Rock.
And all of a sudden, you guys know, you've been at these things before, where you'll hear something, a roar in the crowd, and everyone's running.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there was some pretty good ones. And the dope smoking, I guess I don't think it's legal to do it. You can tell, I don't think this is a regular boxing crowd because Jake Paul must have a lot of business.
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's going to work because, you know, that happened. They were talking about Al Bernstein smoking on the set and everything for that Triller fight, the last one. And now this weekend, it's on Triller. The fight that was supposed to happen between Oscar De La Hoya and Vitor Belfort has now been changed to Evander Holyfield and Vitor Belfort, and they had to move it to Florida because California wouldn't license Holyfield. And then they put Trump and Trump Jr. on the commentary team. So, I mean, talk about a spectacle fight. I don't think they're allowed to.
Tell me you guys won't be watching.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. There's a spectacle, and you know, I mean, all of us love fighting at the highest levels. We've all tried it at different levels. We respect fighters. We know how hard it is. But there's something about a spectacle. I mean, it's like if there's a fight in the bar, everyone's going to stop. You know, that happened about 10 years ago between a couple of gals, and I wanted to coach one of them. And I was, oh, come on now, get the guard. Come on. So, yeah, I'll be watching. I can say there's really nothing else too much happening this weekend, to my knowledge. So,
Yeah. Big news, though, today. Jim Lampley quit the broadcast team when he found out that Trump was going to be on the...
poor little Jimmy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I guess that's his hippie politics, you know. He just couldn't deal with it. But, yeah, there was a funny side story that California was supposed to do this fight, but which would have definitely guaranteed weed smoking in the audience. But it turned into a Florida situation. So, yeah, that obviously is better for Trump, so that's probably why he agreed. They're supposed to have a contract and everything with Trump and Trump Jr. to be on the commentary team. So I would imagine they would, with the president in the building, it would be a little bit harder to get away with that shit. With the former president, even. You know? But yeah, it's a crazy situation. So I just wonder how the Secret Service is going to protect him if it's a full crowd. They're going to have a friggin'
Don't manage.
bulletproof plexiglass around him the whole time? I don't know. It's crazy to see. But yeah, that whole fight card is interesting. Evander Holyfield is 58 years old, but claims to be ready for this one. And I guess
he'll be 59 next month.
Yeah.
He'll be born in October '62. He'll be 59 next month. Wow.
That's pretty crazy. It's like one of those fights where
what do you guys think? Because I would say that Vitor, if you look at his early fights, remember, he started off in boxing and was pretty much Olympic level for Brazil in 1996. And those early fights, his hands were incredible. So I know with De La Hoya, he'd have a weight advantage. But I don't know. What's you guys feeling on this one? What do you think?
You know, Tom, just like you said, with De La Hoya, he would have a weight advantage. Because De La Hoya, even at his heaviest, was a blown-up middleweight.
Right.
Where he was, I mean, this is talking about a guy that started off at 130 pounds. A tall, lanky 130 pounds. And then he was a lightweight, and I think he's most noted for his time at welterweight. I think that was his most comfortable and maybe his most effective weight. Now you were looking at him being at, 185, 190, 195, which would have been, like, to be a challenge for a guy like Evander Holyfield. Now, Oscar De La Hoya. Now you go to a guy like Evander Holyfield that's been a heavyweight for 3 decades plus now. And, so the size disadvantage that Belfort would, or size advantage Belfort would have had over De La Hoya is now a moot point. Now, the one thing about Evander, if you go back and you look at Evander, even from his first loss to what have been Evander, he had a very physically taxing style. Even his fights like at cruiserweight with guys like Dwight Muhammad Cowade, when he first moved to heavyweight, fights with guys like Michael Dokes, they were very taxing fights with guys like Bert Cooper, very taxing fights. Then he had, the loss of Riddick Bowe. He came back, he avenged it, and then that first loss to Michael Moore is when you started getting the Jekyll and Hyde Holyfield. He had the heart murmur in the fight against Moore, and he looked fatigued. I mean, he looked like he was struggling at all points. And then a year later, he fights Bowe a third time, and it was like somebody pulled the plug on him, and he just got so worn out, he fell down from a punch that barely even landed, and the fight was over. And then all of a sudden, he's going to get murdered by Mike Tyson, and he beats him. And now, he's fighting great again. He knocked out Michael Moore impressively. Then he had those 2 Spectrum fights with Lennox Lewis, the one where he looked terrible, and he got the draw, which he shouldn't have gotten, and then the other one, which he likely won, but didn't get. Yeah. And it was from there, it was like you were either going to get him either really good or really bad. That fight against James Toney, he looked like he was 80 years old.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah. Jekyll Hyde.
And Jekyll Hyde, that's been for 25 years now. He's been Jekyll Hyde. So now when he steps into the ring, now when he's close to 60 years old,
hasn't fought in a decade. And the last time he fought, it was Mitt Romney. You believe that? The last time he fought was Mitt Romney. So,
exactly.
I mean, I got to put my money on Vitor because he's fought more recently. I don't think Evander has been doing the TRT at all. I don't think he's ever done it. He's one of those real clean type of guys. So I just don't picture him doing steroids to get ready, and that would be like the only thing I think that would help him overcome that age gap. And Vitor has been getting ready for this, and Evander thinks he's going to be fighting Tyson, who's a little bit closer in age. But it's just the only thing that Holyfield has in his favor is the lack of boxing experience that Belfort has. But just seeing Evander in interviews and on TV and on the show with Alex Rodriguez, I don't see him having the mental focus to do it. I just don't think he's going to be fast enough, and I don't think he's all there.
I can see two scenarios here. I can see two scenarios. Scenario number one is, the difference in experience. So maybe even if Holyfield doesn't have the juice and the energy and the stamina and the speed and the reflexes that he once did, he has, the osmosis of boxing, where he's still going to do a lot of the little things right, and that's going to carry him. Or you could have it just being somebody that's raw but powerful, basically overwhelming an old man. It's going to be one of those two spectrums. There's going to be no in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could see a Ray Mercer versus Tim Sylvia, or Tyron Woodley versus Jake Paul. Old guy version.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, Rich. My instincts say Vitor will have a little too much.
Yeah.
But my heart's kind of with Holyfield in that. I'd love to see him be competitive at least.
Yeah. Well, we also have to talk about a big ESPN card in UFC fights last 2 Saturdays ago. Giga Chikadze got the big win there over Edson Barboza. It was a TKO from punches, but he got frustrated quite a bit. He fights with a very cocky style. And Barboza is a smart fighter. He tried to pick his spots, but just could not deal with the speed and the power and just the timing was really the big thing. Timing and range. Chikadze was always willing to reset when he got hit, be patient, wait for his opening, and then just explode. And he has these certain moves, these certain kicks, body kicks, are just vicious. And just some of the things he does, you just cannot stop it. Like, it's just so blindingly fast. The only thing that he sucks at certain times is when he gets in range, he gets so cocky and comfortable, he leaves his hands down after punching. And that's where he gets caught. So he needs a little bit better reflexes of after that punch, bring that hand back to your chin. At least one. And he just leaves both hands down. That's where he gets clipped, and then he gets back out, and he focuses again, and moves his way back in. It's just very methodic about it. So it took him 3 rounds, but he got the TKO. And then the co-main event, I was big on Gilbert Urbina. He was coming in on short notice. I didn't know that until they introduced the fight, but I did a bunch of FanDuel cards, didn't win on any of them. But Brian Battle did what he did the whole entire Ultimate Fighter tournament. He came back from getting his butt kicked early. So yeah, he's going to be one of those types of fighters that just takes a long time to get rid of all his imperfections, but it's just so durable that he can weather an early storm make the adjustments. And, you got the rear naked choke on Gilbert. Gilbert started out real strong, real fast, but just seemed like he gassed out. Just not ready for the big leagues. And then, boy, what a barn burner in the other fight, Ricky Tercios and Brady Highstands. That was a split decision win for Tercios. And those guys wanted to take each other's heads off the entire fight. It was basically a kickboxing match the entire time. And then we had a real scrappy fight between Daniel Rodriguez beating Kevin Lee by unanimous decision. And Rodriguez made the adjustments.
And that was impressive.
Yeah, he's just one of those tough fighters. He could take punch and he can give a punch, and he just kind of fought a better second and third round.
And he has. I love his interviews. He's got that old school mindset. No, I don't know anyone, anytime. Yeah, he looked pretty good. Lost the first round, but he recovered.
Yeah, this guy was one of the underdogs on the card, where it was one of the cheapest guys you could pick. Michael Gilmore. He put up a hell of a fight in his fight against Andre Petrosky. Petrosky was a heavy favorite and ended up getting the TKO eventually in the third round. But up until then, Gilmore was hanging in there and making it look close. But the big hero of the night, Gerald Meerschaert, the guy with the funny name, but not so funny fight experience. And this is great for a couple reasons. He beat this guy Mahmoud Muradov, who was, I believe, undefeated. If not, he only had one loss, I think. But anyway, going in, he was the tough guy. He had all the knockouts, and Meerschaert was the guy with all the journeyman experience, but more likely to choke you out. So what does he do? He chokes the guy out. And he was $8, like the lowest you can go as far as a FanDuel card. So of course, I mean, he's one of the ones I overlooked. I didn't expect him to win at all. And boy, he in the post-fight interview, he really laid it bare, because Paul Craig, who's a fighter himself, comes up to interview him. Not Paul Craig. What's his name there? One of the announcers, the redheaded guy there, comes up to interview him, and he says, boy, you really took a beating out there.
Paul Felder.
Paul Felder, yes. So he's like, you really took a beating out there. And a guy goes real quick right back to me. He says, yeah, I'm sorry, I was doing my impersonation of you.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
So yeah, that's one of those examples that you can never underestimate the underdog in any fight, period. But when you got to look at those situations where they favor that fighter so much just because of his record. Sometimes you got to look at who the guy fought, how long he's fought, what he specializes in, stuff like that. And what if he's been in a new camp, won a couple fights in a row, seems to have shit straightened out. And you got to look at also, I've noticed, what leagues these guys come from. Some leagues obviously have more famous people than others that come through them to get to the top. And so somebody might have fought in one of the minor leagues, somebody that's a champion in the UFC right now, and beat him. Who knows? There's all kinds of situations like that. But then there's these other leagues where there's guys that you never heard of, and leagues that you never heard of. So, like one of the guys on this card, I think he was high stand. Or no, actually, no, it was high stand. He had a bunch of just meatballs on his record, and somehow he got into the Ultimate Fighter tournament and got onto this big card. But it goes both ways. Sometimes the record proves everything. Sometimes it proves nothing. So anyway, that was a great fight card. Also, a big surprise was Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He was a very cheap fighter on the card. He got a big win over another journeyman, Alessio Di Chirico. That was a head kick, just 17 seconds in. So to win the money, you really had to have all the knockouts. And then another one that was earlier, Dustin Jacoby over Darren Stewart. That was in the first round too. 3 minutes and 4 seconds in. Jacoby got the job done there. Sam Alvey unfortunately took a split decision loss over Wellington Turman, and there was 2 eye pokes in there, and Turman got 2 points taken away in the same round, the third round, and Sam Alvey still lost. I don't know how that happens. I thought he did well enough to win that fight, especially with all the eye pokes, but it's crazy. I don't think you'll see Sam fighting that much longer, though. I mean, it just didn't look like he was in for the kill and even really wanting to be there after the first round. He's just surviving. I don't want to see him do that every fight. I hope he really thinks about it. I don't even know where he is on his contract, though. He might just try to finish out whatever contract he has. Earlier in the night, we had J.J. Aldrich over Vanessa Demopoulos. That was just a unanimous decision there. Pat Sabatini over Jamal Emmers. That was a heel hook submission win there. And Leomana Martinez over Guido Canetti. Split decision there. And we've got one more UFC fight to talk about. Just last week. No fights this week. There's not a single MMA fight this weekend. Which I guess it's got something to do with September 11th and football starting. But college football too. But anyway, we had Derek Brunson versus Darren Till. Derek Brunson, boy, I was close on this one. I didn't have all the knockout guys, but I had Derek Brunson in a couple of my cards. He was pretty cheap. He was like $17 in the middle, but Darren Till had a little bit fewer losses or whatever, and has been in the title picture, so he was naturally favored. Unfortunately, he didn't really act like he was favored in the fight. Brunson knocked him out of the fight with a rear naked choke there. It's third round, 2 minutes and 13 seconds in, but boy, he's put together quite a little win streak, Derek Brunson. And he's looking better and better every time.
Yeah, he's nothing flashy, but he just keeps winning.
Yeah.
And that's where, a couple of my friends were saying that they were really backing Till, and I said, well, it's hard to overlook Brunson because he just sneaks in and wins. But I guess now he's hoping to get another title shot, but first time he fought Israel, it didn't work too well.
Yeah. A lot of decisions on this card, but, and there was only 9 fights. So I thought this was going to be a really easy one to win on FanDuel, but there was just so few knockouts. You had to get every one of them to win, and Derek Brunson was one of them. Tom Aspinall, that was an easy one. I had him on most of my cards. He got a TKO in the co-main event with elbows and punches over Sergey Spivak. He was another cheapo depot option, though I got fooled on a couple of cards picking him just in case. Then there was Alex Moroney.
Yeah, he's an up-and-comer. He looked great.
Yeah. Tom, I mean, he's just, he's one of those fighters, he just looks so chunky and, like, out of shape. You don't think he's got a chance, but then he starts slugging. He's got great boxing skills, and good hands, and he can take a punch, so I pretty much knew he was going to win. He was priced for it, too. Alex Moroney, he was in the middle of the pack. He beat David Zawada. That was a unanimous decision, though, so it didn't really help on FanDuel. Khalil Roundtree was the biggest one I missed. Modestas Bukauskas was an expensive pick, and I looked at Roundtree's record, and it was pretty bad. He lost like 3 in a row, but apparently his son told him, no more losses, Daddy, and before the fight, and it was like a big inspiration for him. And boy, you talk about kicks. He was practicing this kick, like an oblique kick, like John Jones was famous for. But he was doing it specifically to cause that kind of injury, which kind of was leaving the commentating team a little bit confused at one point. And then Michael Bisping flat out asked him in the post-fight interview, were you trying to hurt the dude? And he didn't know whether to be in awe congratulatory or pissed off, I think. That he purposely wanted to injure this guy with this kick. But he basically like disconnected his knee, turned it the other way. It was bad. And Roundtree said he doesn't even do those kicks in training because of that. But he wanted to do it in a fight. So I mean, it's like you don't want to encourage that, but you don't want to rule it out. It's legal. So what are you gonna say to that? I don't know. It's a confusing issue, but Roundtree got the TKO, just blew the guy's leg right up. I mean, he was gonna win anyway. I mean, he was so aggressive. He just at the right times. He was very calm. Didn't even look like he was in a fight. As far as his facial expressions, he didn't look annoyed a couple times when he got connected on, but I mean it was more like, oh geez, a fly hit me, a fly landed on me, I gotta swipe it off. Now it's a good win for him, turning around, keep his contract, I guess. Not gonna get thrown out after that. And then before that, there was another guy that nobody really expected to win by knockout. Long-time veteran of the minor leagues, fighting a guy, Luigi Vendramini, who had a lot of knockouts and was going for the knockout early. So much so that he kind of punched himself out and got tired, and Paddy Pimblett became an internet sensation because he got the knockout and everybody was memeing about him all of a sudden because of his stupid haircut. Looks like an Amish kid. But he got the knockout 4 minutes and 25 seconds into the first. And one of the fighters I did have on my card that won was Molly Mccann. She beat Ji Kim, but only did the unanimous decision. It wasn't a knockout, so you get the big points. Just got a few. Jack Shore, he was a big one on the pay scale. He was high on the pay scale, undefeated still, fighting Ludwig Scholinen, who I think was from the feeder leagues. And then Charles Jourdain got upset by Julian Erosa. I kind of saw that one coming. I had him on a couple of guards, but it was a submission late in the fight, which doesn't count so much as a knockout early. So even having that one wasn't a guarantee that you're going to win money. Then the first fight of the night, I had both guys on different cards. But Marc-Andre Barriault was the more expensive fighter. He won the fight by unanimous decision. We had some Jesus fight of the week that we didn't get to mention last week. Was the big main event on TV. I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but I kind of tuned in. Got a couple rounds. Jesus Alejandro Ramos beating Brian Mendoza on Sunday. So Sunday fights. Also, Juan Carlos Burgos falling to Starling Castillo. But Saturday we also had Conor Benn notching another win over Adrian Granados. It's a tough opponent.
Oh, no shit.
Katie Taylor beating Jennifer Hahn Saturday as well.
Katie's actually trained multiple times in Philadelphia. One of my friends and former LSU teammates knows her pretty well.
Fights listed here for Friday, but I don't recognize any of the names. Big fights for Saturday while we wait for the whole platform. They're all crazy, hard to pronounce names Saturday the 11th here, because all the fights I believe are probably taking place overseas. It must be because of Saturday falling on September 11th. So the only American sounding name on Saturday on the main page of BoxRec here for fights is Andy Vences, Jono Carroll. Everyone else is like Kudryashov, Vesputin.
I know there's some fights tomorrow night in Philadelphia. card out. It was going to be his first fight in almost 4 years. You know, we had that bad loss in February of 2019, and he was supposed to fight about a month later, and that card got postponed. The whole card got postponed. That was in Atlantic City, and then we had something scheduled. Yeah, one scheduled for March of last year, right when the COVID shutdown happened. So it's like this poor kid. So hopefully, you know, he had to weigh in, and he's actually, I just looked at a post that was on Facebook a few minutes ago. It took 24 hours to go, you know.
Overseas. Oh, here's our mismatch of the week right away from Westfalen, Nordheim, Westfalen, Germany. Heavyweight, nonetheless, mismatch of the week. We've got 17-1 Patrick with a K at the end. Patrick, P-A-T-R-I-C-K. Corte, K-O-R-T-E. Fighting Zal Cavazzarelli, who is 4-2. Versus 17-1. Show this in the got 2-0 versus 2-12 in Italy. 3-0 versus 0-9 on the same card. Kobayashi is fighting. At flyweight. Japan. Goki Kobayashi, 1-0, fighting Hayato Ayuki, 4-1. Over in Russia, that's where we're fighting. I think it's Russia would be doing a big fight card or something. Lightweights in the main event. Zaur Abdullayev, 13-1, fighting Dejan Zlatikanin. It's 24-2. That's what it's for a title too. WBC silver lightweight title. And a cruiserweight fight. Evgeny Kishenko, 8-1, fighting Dmitry Kudrashov. It's 24-4. And super featherweights. For the WBC International Cruiserweight title. It's like every fight in this friggin' card is for the title. There's only one actually that's not. It's a pretty decent fight. Super bantamweights for that. Azor Volkadov, 9-0, fighting Mohamed Shekhov with 9-0-1. That was the WBO European Super bantamweight title. Ruslan Kamalov at super featherweight, undefeated, 10-1, fighting Stanislav Kalitsky, who's 11-0 for the WBO Intercontinental Super Featherweight title. And another super featherweight title is the only one not for title. Another fight. Mark Urvanov, 19-1, fighting Otto Joseph, 17-0. Before that, another title fight, super featherweight, you guessed it, 17-0, Muhammad Kuja Yakubov. Christian Palmer is his opponent, who is 31-10-2. Yakubov, 17-0. This one's for the WBC International Super Featherweight title. And we got a female fight, Russia. World Boxing Council Interim World Female Bantamweight title. 7-5-2 Jessica Gonzalez and Tatiana Zurazevskaya. It's 11-0 at bantamweight. I wonder if she's the favorite. Super featherweight Dmitry Kasiev, 11-2-2, fighting Rafiwa Mehmood, 19-12-3 for the vacant WBO Oriental Super Featherweight title. Then the first fight of the night, also for an Oriental title, the World Boxing Organization Oriental Super Middleweight title. Oleg, of course you gotta have an Oleg, it's a Russian fighter. Oleg Mishura, who is 7-0, fighting Artish Lopsand, who's 5'1". We're gonna have to stay with the Russian team. We've got another one Saturday. Welterweight main events. We'll talk about it. Alexander Vesputin. He is 14-0, fighting Mauricio Pintor, who is 24-3. No title there, though. The other fight in Russia hogged all the title fights. Stories there. Here's one from Spain. Going to be on the zone. Kerman Jaraga. He was 32-2, fighting Dylan Charat. Undefeated, 20 wins, no losses, 1 draw. For the vacant EBU Super Welterweight title. We've got a female fight, 6-2 Mary Romero at Super Bantamweight, fighting 4-0-1 Amy Tinlin, EBU European female Super Bantamweight title. Kiko Martinez on this card. How about this? 41-10-2 is his record at featherweight, fighting J-Ro Duran, who is 14-9. There's a guy, 1-0, fighting a guy who is 5-77-2. Here's the American names here. Hollywood, Florida, there is a fight card. Oh, this is the one at the Hard Rock Hotel. Okay. So this is the whole fight card for the Holyfield fight. We've got Andy Vences, 23-2-1, fighting Jono Carroll, who's 19-2-1. By the way, the Holyfield fight is only 2-minute rounds, so that could favor him. If he's not great of shape.
Wasn't it?
I think so.
Rounds? Yes. Yes.
Also making a comeback on this fight card, not as old as Evander Holyfield, but David Hay, fighting at heavyweight again, 28-4, fighting Joe Fournier, who is undefeated, 9-0, coming off a no contest. And Tito Ortiz making his boxing debut at cruiserweight against another MMA fighter, Anderson Silva, 2-1. I believe this is the first time this has been done. 2 big-name MMA fighters fighting each other. It's typically boxing versus MMA, so this is going to be an interesting one. But I like Anderson Silva just for the fact that Tito was always a wrestler. He was never a good striker, ever. And even as a wrestler, he sucked as a fighter. So, I mean, some parts of his career were good, but towards the end of his career, he just couldn't even.
Yeah, early on, Tito was a monster.
Yeah.
You know, around 2000, he was in his heyday then. He was pretty much unbeatable. But Chuck Liddell had something to say about that.
And Anderson is actually 2-1 already as a boxer. So, gotta give credit there. Evander coming in at 44-10 with 2 draws. Fighting Vitor Belfort, who actually is 1-0 as a boxer. I did not know that. That's been a long time ago. And featherweights leading off tonight. Anthony Chavez, 9-1. But an obvious opponent here, Duel Ogwin, who has a fantastic record of 15-19-4. This here, fight in Oregon, Ohio, Tom. How close is that to you?
Okay, what is the town?
Oregon, like the state. Oregon, Ohio.
Oh, it must be down south. Yeah, there's Orville very close, but Oregon, I think that's down south.
Well, it's nothing too crazy card, but I just thought the name was funny. DeAndre Ware. I keep played football. This guy that had the same name played football, right? 13.
I think it was Andre, not DeAndre.
13 wins, 3 losses. 13 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws. He's fighting Ashton Sykes, who's 5-5. I think we about covered it. Short week, short schedule, even though we had to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Oh, just one other thing. I know you guys probably don't watch much, but Saturday afternoon there was a card over in Europe, and Floyd kickboxing is really big there. He had, normally Hail Marys in football don't work. Very seldom. Very seldom. Hail Marys are even less common, I think, in the fight world. Whenever I bring this up to my friends, they'd say Mike Weaver against John Tate. And that was a Hail Mary. And I could also think of Bone Crusher Smith against Frank Bruno. Okay, but we had one Saturday where there was top-notch kickboxer, Vitor Belfort from Morocco, and he's been making a comeback. And Alistair now is in glory, and he's going to be fighting the champion. He's going to fight the champ next month, Rico Verhoeven. And then Vitor Belfort will finish off this Polish fight. He's ranked number 7, I believe. And in the first round, Vitor Belfort dropped him twice, and he was landing shots, both with his hands and his hip. And how that Polish fighter came out for round 3, I don't know. When he came out really trying to fight back, started getting dropped with these horrible liver shots. For me, hit me in the head. It was just a nightmare. And so Vitor Belfort comes in to finish him off, and this guy just throws a wild head kick. And Vitor Belfort dropped one and sat up the cage. Really tried to get up. And it was, you guys take a look at that. It was just one of the most improbable comebacks. I mean, that's where you'd think, you go back to that, Mike. It's like, my God. He lost every round, and then, boom, what a surprise. So you guys get a chance, probably might be fun to watch.
Well, 6 degrees of separation here. One of my former interview subjects, Rainco Saunders, is on BoxingScene.com, big interview I did with him back in the day. And he is actually one of his last great performances, among a shit ton of losses towards the end of his career. Rainco had a draw against DeAndre Ware. Ware came in 8-0-1 at the time. This guy doesn't have a bad record. The only fighters he's lost to, those 3, were all undefeated going in. Sem Killick was one of them, who was 11-0. And we had Steven Nelson in his last fight that he lost. That was September of last year. So he's waited a year for his next one here. That guy was 16-0. And then before that, Vladimir Shishkin. So 2 fights in a row he lost, both by TKO. Shishkin was 8-0. Rainco Saunders back in 2017. And Rainco was 23-30-2. Got him to a draw. And that was his 2nd draw in a row, too. For DeAndre. Before that was Juan Carlos Rojas Sanchez, who was only 7-18-1. Split draw.
Wasn't Rainco the one that said, like, he was training because he was trying to just sell tickets?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, you're exhausted going into the fight, and it was like, sitting around just trying to get tickets, make extra money.
Yeah, because he had to sell tickets back then to make most of his money. He had to both sell the fight and be in the fight. So, and he was always getting robbed.
That's the thing, like, when you get bought, it's like, like these local cards, that's what happens. You know, guys will get like, you know, a percentage, and like, you know, you can get so many tickets, and if you sell them, you know, you'll get extra money out of that. So, you know, a lot of these guys, I mean, that's their livelihood. It's not like Floyd Mayweather wanting the gate to be 1 million buys instead of 800,000 buys. That'll get him an extra, you know, $1 million or $2. Maybe making an extra $200 or $300. That's a big deal.
Oh boy, I didn't even realize this. Back in 2013, Rainco Saunders was only the second win for Artur Beterbiev. Montreal.
Oh, no shit. Oh, I can guarantee one thing. The fight didn't go the distance.
RTD. It's fun. A lot of crazy guys.
Never seen him so well.
It's amazing how many undefeated fighters he fought at the end of his career. Right, 12-0 Anthony Sims Jr. His last fight was James Ballard, 8. Tough guy. I wonder what he's doing now. Huh? Pittsburgh. Favorite town.
Yeah.
Alright, I guess that's all for the rest of this week. We get to enjoy the second half of the football game.
Before we break, I just want to bring something up. You know, I hate to end on a bad note or a, you know, unhappy note, but I think it, you know, needs to be brought up that, you know, Saturday, 2 days, is going to be the 20th anniversary, November 11th. And, you know, I mean, that's like maybe one of the biggest events of our lives, you know, at least mine, you know, in 45 years. And I write this piece every year, you know, on the anniversary, and I'll probably just share it. Maybe I might review the forward because of years. But, you know, that morning, I had just moved to Harleysville a couple months prior, so I was still getting used to the neighborhood. I was still getting used to the traffic patterns, going to work. And that morning, I had sprained my ankle pretty badly a week prior. And they said I should go 3 weeks. You know, I don't like nobody. And so that Sunday, which today, September, watching the Eagles game, and I'm getting all fired up because they're losing, and they lose in overtime on a fumble, you know, so I'm pissed off. And through the door, I said, I ain't going to walk on these anymore. I'm going to work out tomorrow. You know, stupid on my part, but I was 25, and so that Tuesday morning, I'm driving. I'm not used to the new traffic patterns yet, especially the new school year, and I was late. And my boss, great guy, and I had a, you know, good friendship. To bust each other's balls, and he would bust my balls if I was 1 minute late. My start time was 8:45. So I walked into my office at 8:48. He busted my balls, and I expected, and I told him, you know, shut up and kiss my ass, you know, normal stuff. And I went downstairs to meet with our team. I had a team downstairs, and I coordinated their stuff for the day. So as I'm working with the team, a woman on the team walks in, and she's looking all flustered, and she's like, you know, God, this accident happened in New York, and I'm thinking, you lady, don't ever let me when I'm talking. You know, I never really liked her that much anyway, and I thought it was just, you know, a minor blip. Well, nothing was further than the truth. And now you think about it, in hindsight, I was 3 minutes late to work. I got to work at 8:48. If I was in North Town, that 3 minutes may have saved my life. The plane hit at 8:46. So I think about that a lot, especially every year. So last week, and I don't remember if I sent it to you or not, but I did a 9/11 tribute walk, and you know, I signed up for it about a month ago. Made my stuff, and they said you could do it at any time, anywhere, and you could break it up if you have to. So you did it any time throughout the month. So you could, you know, do 2 miles a day for 5 days. But me being me, I had to do it in one shot. I just gotta get down, and I just gotta put my music on, and I just gotta do it. So, you know, that's, you know, what I did, and I did it last Saturday. And I averaged 2.5 minutes a mile, walking only. I only did spurts of running, but not much. And, you know, when I got home, that's when I broke out the medal they gave me, and I was like, you know, I've earned this now. And some of the proceeds to the families that were affected. And, you know, that's, you know, something that I felt was important to me. You know, as you're doing it, you know, you're thinking about the people on Fund 23. And thinking about the people, like, in their last moments, and what were they thinking? Where would they be today? I just wanted to kind of end it on that note. You know?
Yeah, the other thing too I saw today on Fox News is it's just incredibly tragic the number of people that are getting 9/11 related cancers from working on the site afterwards for all that time. It's just exponentially increasing, and they're up to like over 30,000 people now in that group. And so when John Stewart came before Congress and had all the victims, they ended up getting a settlement, and they ended up getting some payments started to those victims. But now there's just so many victims that it's getting really impossible to pay these people for the schedule. So it's going to be just a big disaster again when that fund runs out. But yeah, it's just tragic. There's just so many different ripple effects from it. I lost my job from my first opportunity at a newspaper. Kind of forced me into writing a little bit more, which was good, because I kind of was skipping out on the day job as a newspaper circulation manager to do the writing at night. So one thing I will always remember from that day is the airplanes, because I was in Quincy, Massachusetts, which is just about half an hour from Boston, and you could see the planes just circling around low and holding pattern. And I was listening to Tom Brokaw describe the towers collapsing on the radio, knowing that the newspaper was going to be late that day. They were stopping the presses. And, the only funny thing that happened that day was this idiot kid who just started comes in and did not realize the whole procedure for a newspaper where they stop the presses, and an important thing like this, everybody's going to want that paper for like a month. They'll be asking if they don't have it, they want another copy.
I still have mine.
And so this kid comes in and he's seeing like all the cars from our complex where the newspaper was evacuating, and just like it was like a highway all of a sudden. The people that were just leaving, 11 o'clock in the morning. And so this kid turns to me, I'm training him, and he says to me, do we get to go home too? I just said, listen buddy, you're not going to go home at all tonight, unless it's late probably, because everybody is going to want this paper. We're going to be busy for a while.
I remember you telling me that one. I remember you saying that. Yeah, so kid, you don't know journalism, do you?
Yeah, and people were. Like that entire week, I was still delivering that day's paper because people wanted to make sure that they had it. Unfortunately, the sad part is...
You need a copy of mine.
Yeah. The sad part is, like, a couple days later, I think I was on my way with my girlfriend to a meeting that I was going to write about. And the song came on the radio, Goodbye Ruby Tuesday. And that was the first time I really got broken up about September 11th, because I started thinking about the sentiment of, we're saying goodbye to that. Like, that was on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
That the world in the United States would never be the same after that day. So that song, for some reason, just broke me out. And, I had a lot of friends go overseas and fight because of September 11th. People I knew from Norwich, a lot of people lost their lives. So, this whole Afghanistan thing, one of my buddies is doing these soldiers' crosses for the 13 people killed in Afghanistan. It's a chainsaw cargo. So we just finished that, and he's getting them shipped out just in time for September 11th. But yeah, we wish we were in a better place after spending 20 years over there. But,
yeah, I know.
It's just things. We need a political show to talk about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you know, I mean, I can't believe it's like, you know, it's been the majority, you know, of my life now, you know, like that event, you know, because, and you don't forget, like, because I was 25 years old when it happened, you know, like that everybody knows about it or witnessed it or has vivid memory, you know, you forget that, you know, didn't remember it or weren't born yet or, you know, weren't, you know, comprehending it. And now you figure there's people in college now that are graduating or you know, second, third year of college that weren't even born yet. And, you know, and these are people that are shaping our future, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yep, and then you got a guy like Joe Biden in office who opposed was in a shit position for the Vietnam War, and he was in a shit position for the end of the Afghanistan War, and cursed himself with that stupid remark about, they won't be evacuating people from the embassy in Kabul like they did in Vietnam. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's crazy. You get a lot of situations that are going to come to a head, I think, in this next month here. We got unemployment running out federally, so people got to go back to work even though they're not going to want to. We got this eviction moratorium not happening anymore. And football season opening up, and college and NFL. It's going to bring a lot of crowds together, so COVID's just going to get worse. It's going to be a lot of things. People might be in for a bad winter.
I was on a conference call 2 days ago with my job, because my job in Center City, the city is really pressuring a lot of these companies to reopen, and so because first of all they want people to come back into the city to get the local business running again, okay? But they also want the tax rate. You know, you figure a guy like me, you know, if I pay 4% of wage tax, I'm paying around $2,000 or a little more than $2,000 a year. That doesn't even count what I would contribute to the city economy from if I buy breakfast or lunch, sure, you know, take the regional rail or parking or anything like that. So they figure if there's a company of 500 people and the average, you know, wage tax loss is $2,000, that's $1 million. They want to get that money. So you're obviously trying to get that, you know, re-upped, you know, as soon as possible. So we had a call on Tuesday. Our offices are scheduled to reopen, but only for people with actual offices. Okay, fine. I don't have an office. Then they said in October could be certain directors, certain supervisors, which I am not. Okay. Then come November, they're going to welcome everybody back, and I'm doing hand quotes right now, on a voluntary basis. I ain't volunteering, fuck you. I ain't volunteering. And then they said then they're going to determine, you know, a potential hybrid schedule going forward, 3 days a week in the city, 2 days at home. Look, if they bring you back 1 day a week in the city, you're a city employee, they can tax you, city wage tax. So that's what they want to do. So we were hoping our team would become permanently remote. We were on a call the other day, like I said, I don't like the new manager. I made that clear multiple times. So he's on there. He basically told us nothing in 30 minutes. And he goes, well, the one guy signed off on working remotely, but somebody else is saying no, they want us to work. And, you know, whatever. He goes, but right now, he don't expect it to be anything but voluntary until sometime next year. Okay, so basically I'm staying at home until next year. Until you are dragging me into that office and screaming, I ain't coming back. Fuck you. And then he goes, and then I think he knows that people are like not happy. And he goes, once they become mandatory, even 3 days a week, then you have a decision. They're mandating vaccine. If you don't get the vaccine, you basically avoid your employment.
Yeah.
I mean, I had, we got to upload the card. So if that's, what they're trying to do. So, I mean,
I notice a lot of people are switching jobs up here. It's weird because, like, I go into the supermarket and I see somebody who used to work at Family Dollar down the street. And then I go to Family Dollar one day and I see somebody that used to work at the supermarket. And I'm like, did you guys make a trade? It's like a sports team. A lot of people are just, going to higher ground, basically, getting better opportunities because there's just so much of a lure to get people now because pay packages are getting better.
There right now is a mask mandate in the city. If you are in the city, indoors, you have to wear a mask. Okay. So basically what you are going to make me do is I'm going to have to wear a mask for 10 consecutive hours. Because there will be an hour on the train, and then 8 hours in my office. Actually, 8.5 hours in my office. Because my train would drop me a half hour before my schedule would start. So 8.5 hours in the office, and then another hour on the train. So from basically 6:45 p.m. or 6:45 a.m. until about maybe 4:55, 5 o'clock p.m. I have to wear a mask. So you're telling me I have to wear a mask for almost 10.5 consecutive hours, except when I'm eating or drinking.
That's ridiculous.
How is that healthy, and how is that good for morale?
Yeah, in New Hampshire, it's very loose, and we don't have any hospitals overrun. They don't even talk about it on the news. The nightly news does not discuss COVID really that much, except for as it relates to the kids going back to school. They don't really discuss the deaths. It's a big thing in New Hampshire, but we haven't had mask mandates for a month. Most of the employees at the stores have to wear the masks for whatever reason, but it's not a mandate. It's just the store policy. I walked right into the bank the other day, and there's not even a single sign saying that masks are encouraged. So I just don't know how they do it. Some states just go overboard, and then other states are just like, fuck it, look for your die. But yeah, I just find it unbelievable the way that people are now being shamed, and the anti-vaccine people, for whatever reason, are getting pigeonholed into the category of, oh, you don't want it because you think it's going to be a tracker that's put in you. It's maybe 0.5% of the people that don't want the vaccine. And there's been a case over in Japan now where they had contaminated vaccine that killed some people. So, these people do have legitimate concerns to be worried about it. And they were going to put out booster shots for all 3 vaccines, and the FDA said, no, we can only do Pfizer. So that says something about the whole process. It's just ridiculous. It's so much of inconsistencies and everything like that. And the thing that I find funny in a weird way is when Donald Trump was president, all they wanted to do was blame him for every single COVID death. Now, Joe Biden's president, and they want to blame all the unvaccinated people for all the COVID deaths.
Yep. Well, you know what? Rich, you obviously work in media. We all do. We do this show right now. And I've said this multiple times. You can make a fact out of something that's not a fact. I can watch a fight right now, and if I'm a good journalist, I can make you believe anything I write. You could watch a fight like we spoke about earlier, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, the first fight, which Lewis clearly won 9 or 10, and up to 12 of them. If you're a good journalist and convincing, you could slant that article and point out all the positive things that Holyfield did. He landed 3 punches in a round. You could really emphasize those 3 punches, and then how he blocked 70% of Lewis's punches, and make it look like that round, which Lewis clearly dominated, was a Holyfield round, right? So, here's one thing I noticed. If you go back and you look, when Donald Trump was president, okay, the vaccines weren't approved until his last month and a half maybe. But every day, they would list the number of cases and the number of deaths. How many people died, how many people, had the COVID. Biden comes in. Now the vaccine has been approved for about a month when Biden's inauguration happened. If you look on the internet, it became how many people were vaccinated. Now the deaths kind of got taken off the main page, and they were showing how many people were getting the vaccine, not how many people were dying. That's journalism right there.
Oh, yeah.
And we want you to look at it.
It's funny, though, how you put out that thing about, the different strains of the vaccine was going to separate people. You were kind of psychic in that area, like Tom, but it was a different subject. It was really going to be the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, the Capulets and the Montagues. Unreal, though. I don't know. I just feel like any day now they're going to be like, we need to do another lockdown. Everybody stay in their house for 2 weeks.
I'm surprised they haven't.
Well, it's like, there's so many, I think there's so many people that have just said, fuck it, we want our freedom. We're going to do it anyway. So they can't spin it around. There's enough Republican governors out there who are just taking the tack of, we're not going to do anything the Democrats want us to do. So, free roam wherever you want, no masks required, do whatever you want to do. Now, even Stephen King is calling the state of Florida the DeSantis death camp state, because they have a Republican governor.
Yeah, I heard that.
Hopefully it'll be over soon. Just take some horse tranquilizer. No, horse dewormer. That's the other thing. That was a total fake story on that one. I don't know if you guys heard that, but they were saying people were overdosing on the horse dewormer. And yeah, you could overdose on it if you took the horse dose for a 1,000-pound animal. But there is a human version of ivermectin. And supposedly Joe Rogan, to tie it back into MMA and boxing, almost MMA. Joe Rogan got the COVID bad. And it took a combination of ivermectin and a couple other things, and beat it himself, and got a negative test like a few days later, which is pretty crazy. He had one bad day, and so. And the other thing they're hiding about ivermectin is it supposedly was a Nobel Prize winning drug. Well, supposedly it was at one point. So, and it's known for antiviral capabilities. But wouldn't that be something? If all these idiots making fun of people for taking ivermectin turned out to be wrong, and a cheap medication that can be used on both horses and humans cures COVID. All this ridiculousness when we could have gone to the vet to cure ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That was an episode of Seinfeld. Raymond was going to the vet. Like, now don't go to a doctor. You go to a vet. They can cure all different animals. Back to back.
We'll see. Maybe. But, Big Pharma will not like that. Not enough money in that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
All right, guys. We're going to call it Halloween.
Okay.
Bye.
Holyfield is back
Holyfield in 5. No. I'm going to say Vitor.
Holyfield in 5.
By knockout.
Got a bet on it.